Kuzampo. My name is Tenzing Lamsang. I'm the editor of the Bhutanese paper. And today I would like to talk about the debate triggered by the editorial decision of the Bhutanese to publish the picture or pictures of the murder accused Chwetin Sering in the Pamtsho murder case. For the some who've objected to publishing of the picture, they have essentially two main objections. The first being innocent until proven guilty, and the second being of potential pain caused to the family members of the murder accused. So here I would like to say that the Bhutanese published the images for three specific reasons. The first reason being that it was relevant to the current Pamtsho murder case. Second, that it was because of other potential cases, and the third being on the strength of the evidence. So when it comes to the current Pamtsho case, what was so far established before the picture came out, that it was a stranger, Sering, killing another stranger, Sumitra, in a moment of passion and anger. And this, according to a source I talked to, who's knowledgeable about the case, said that it could end up as a voluntary manslaughter case, especially because there was no rape established. This means a lighter sentence of 9 years going up to under 15 years. So we wanted to dig more into the case and go a little beyond what was already established. And therefore we exhausted all sources, including family members, and finally decided to publish the picture, hoping that more information or witnesses could come forward. And this is exactly what happened, because the victim, Sumitra Chhetri's elder sister, came forward and she pointed out the fact that she could recognize this person, Chwetin Sering, because Sumitra last year in a parent-teacher meeting in a school pointed to Chwetin and said that she knew him because he was the uncle of one of her friends. And so that established that Sumitra already knew this person, and then the elder sister, in her words, says that, so it's a common sense that even he would be knowing her. So it's no longer a stranger on stranger murder, stranger and stranger killing. So this makes it clear that when, and again as per the CCTV evidence also, that Chwetin Sering knew who he was following, and he tried to sexually assault her, and because that was not successful, he decided to murder her to hide his identity, because she already knew him very well. So there's a lot of premeditation here in terms of following a known person, in terms of attempting sexual assault, and at the same time murdering her. So this is premeditated, and this now gives strong grounds for murder charge, which is a minimum of 15 years going up to life imprisonment. Now, when it comes to the second reason for the publication of the pictures, it has to do with the 2019 Paro and Dangrina cases. And here, according to the RBP, Sering is a suspect, and in fact his DNA has been sent to UK for testing against the DNA at these two sites. And we published the picture because we were hoping that if there were any potential eyewitnesses who may have seen the murder accused in the Pamtsho case with the two young victims before their deaths, then they should come forward, and there is still time. The third reason we published was based on the strength of the evidence. And the evidence was in the form of the blood of the victim on Sering's pant, Sering's blood on the victim because she had fought him till she died, and the blood works, the DNA blood works for both, proving it to be Sering, Sumitra and Sering's blood. Then his DNA and blood and skin found on the fingernails of the victim, plus CCTV footage, and importantly, a confessional statement. So this is very strong evidence. But even with such strong evidence, we have not said that he has been convicted or convicted by the court. All that the Bhutanese has done is a job which is presenting the facts of the case in the interest of transparency. And it is the OAG that will decide what charges to file and the judiciary to decide what punishment is to be applied. So this is not something that we are here to prejudge, but rather we just present the facts of the case. Now, there are some also who are saying, why did we do this? And I think the Pamtsho case is a particularly heinous case. It shook the nation to its core and raised basic questions of security for women. And so the Bhutanese had to do a deep dive on this. Now, there are those who say that the publication of these images is a form of revenge or voyeurism. But this is not so, because the Bhutanese, as a part of a series of stories on the issue, one of our main stories was focused on the murder accused Siri. We went into his past all the way to his childhood, from the time he was born, and we looked into what was the trauma that he encountered, especially as a child and as a young adult, that may have led to this terrible day and terrible crime. And in fact, at the time when he published this story, the Bhutanese was accused of sympathizing with Sering, and there were many who said that we should not have presented his side of the story. In doing this story, we talked to his mother, his uncle, his former employer, and built a profile on him and collected other information. And the reason to do this deep dive was to throw more light and more facts on the case. At the same time, also with a long-term aim of bringing out information which perhaps could be of use to authorities and policymakers in the future, in perhaps looking at ways to prevent such crimes in the future. Because remember, a murderer is never born, a murderer is made. And then also, as a side note, I interviewed Sering's mother and Sering's uncle, and neither of them requested that his name not be mentioned or his picture not be published. In fact, both of them were thoroughly disgusted with what Sering had done. So that is that. And then what we have done is essentially, in publishing the picture, is a continuation of the balanced journalistic work. Now, I must bring up the issue of the reaction of some people to the publication of the image, and that is in terms of misplaced compassion. In fact, His Majesty the King, during the 114th National Day in 2021, pointed to misplaced compassion within a small-knit and compassionate society, due to which we hesitate from giving our honest views or taking bold actions which might risk offending or displeasing others, and as a result, the strength of our national character has weakened. So, while, and you know, the response of some people, this is a form of misplaced compassion. Because while baying for the blood and life of Sering is wrong, at the same time, the other extreme of trying to hide the identity of Sering and the privacy and maintain his privacy is also, I think, equally wrong. So, be it rape or murder, it is grossly unethical to give equivalence to both the perpetrator and the victim by focusing excessively on the privacy of the perpetrator. Also, please remember that the pain caused to the family members of the murder accused is due to the actions of the murder accused or by the criminals for the criminal action. And it is not due to the police investigation or due to the media coverage. I mean, would they would these people suggest that the police stop investigating heinous crimes so that eventually when the perpetrator is caught and identified, that it may cause pain to his family, or that the media stop doing our work as well? The argument that the publication of the picture does not help is not true. There is no established body of work that proves that. In fact, there is plenty of evidence on the contrary. And please go on YouTube and find out for yourself, where the publication of the accused or the criminal's picture has resulted in new victims, new evidences coming forward, and in some cases, when they are on the run, helping to catch them. And then there is a huge disincentive in bringing out the identity of the heinous crime perpetrators. There is, of course, the legal part, which is taken care of by the judicial system. But the exposure part also is a double disincentive. And an evidence of this is in terms of how our Anti-Corruption Commission operates, which operates on the basis of naming and shaming. And it is not a matter of coincidence that Bhutan is ranked 26 out of 180 countries on the Corruption Perception Index. And the result speaks for itself. Then the other factor to consider is that the Bhutanese, we rarely publish the pictures of criminals. We publish only when extremely heinous crimes are committed, or when, in a rare example of this case, where the publication could help the case, the current case, or get information on other potential cases. In fact, if you look at the track record of the Bhutanese, it's quite different in that sense. Because if you remember, around 10 years ago, before 10 years ago, it was quite common for banks and financial institutions to publish the pictures of loan defaulters on the evening news. Something that this paper has always stood against. And we welcomed and supported the National Assembly's Human Rights Committee on 1st December 2014, introducing and getting passed a resolution whereby FIs and banks could no longer publish the pictures of loan defaulters, because loan defaulting is not a criminal activity. The banks already have the collateral and they have the judicial process to recover that loan amount. So this is something that we've always supported. And also when the banks, some of the banks and FIs threatened clients that they'll publish the picture, we wrote a story against it, and I mean, on those lines. Then there are some who've accused, saying that publishing of these pictures is something which only the Indian media does and is sensationalism and all of that. But this is not so. Reputed media outlets globally regularly publish pictures of people accused of heinous crimes, and even otherwise. For example, the 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crook, who attempted to assassinate President Donald Trump, presidential nominee Donald Trump, his picture has been published in virtually every reputed outlet on the planet. Please remember that not even the FBI investigation is complete, nor is there a conviction. And and the examples are like New York Times, BBC, CNN, Los Angeles Times, The Guardian, and basically every reputable outlet on the planet has published his picture. And in these countries, please remember that the libel laws and the privacy laws are very strong, and papers can be sued for millions of dollars. But they've decided to publish based on the strength of the evidence, and hence taken an editorial decision. Now, some may say this is a very high-profile case. So let me go to another recent case where a 26-year-old Kylie Clifford in England is a suspect in a fatal crossbow shooting of the wife and two children of a BBC radio sports commentator. And even before the police could question him, his picture or mugshot is published in again multiple reputed media outlets across the world. And this is far from a conviction. So again, here an editorial judgment is made. And I think here another thing is that people should not be patronizing to readers and viewers or listeners. I think our Bhutanese audience is smart enough to decide and smart enough to know that just the publication of a picture doesn't establish that the person is convicted. I think we should leave it to our readers and viewers. The debate on publication of mugshots or not is more relevant to the West, where even for minor crimes like a bar fight, traffic violation, drunk driving, public disorder, where people are arrested briefly for a night or two and the mugshot is taken, and even before the conviction, the papers normally publish these pictures. So of late, some papers or outlets have decided not to publish because these are normally young people and these are minor crimes and it can affect their future. And this is also, again, some media outlets in the US have decided to self-censor in terms of publishing the mugshots of people in certain cities when they are overwhelmingly from the African American community. So this is not to ensure there's no stereotyping of race with crime. So both of these are not issues in Bhutan because we do not publish the photos in terms of minor crimes or minor issues. And race is not an issue in Bhutan. So as an example, somebody could be going out with their partner to a bar or a restaurant, and then somebody else might, let's say, act smart with their partner and they defend their partner and they both end up in the jail. We're not going to come to the lockup looking for your picture. Well, that is a minor issue, and it could happen to anyone, So then the trend in Bhutan is that, and the trend and tradition in the Bhutanese media, unfortunately, is more to give equal privacy and protection to both the perpetrator and the victim. Even in heinous cases, convicted cases, and that is at the cost of the victim. So I think that is something which is, I think, totally unethical and totally incorrect. And then even the image is still not published even after convictions in heinous cases. The conservative stand taken by some members of the Bhutanese media sets a dangerous precedent in terms of naming and shaming. Because if you make that argument for a picture, then it will apply as well for the critical or investigative or even normal stories that you do. Because there is no court judgment that a contractor has messed up a farm road. There is no court judgment that somebody has embezzled money or abused power. So without court judgment, when you publish, they can flip that argument around and say you are assuming guilt before conviction. You can harm editorial and press freedom in Bhutan. I would say the golden rule is your story, your image, your video, your media content essentially should stand the test of facts. It should also stand the test of litigation if necessary, and if it cannot, then you are accountable. I must say here that misplaced compassion, as I mentioned earlier, the tradition in Bhutanese media is driven by misplaced compassion that gives equal primacy to and privacy to the perpetrator and the victim, even in heinous crimes. So I would like to say that misplaced compassion normally favors the powerful because they have more people who can come and argue their case, they have more people who can make calls. And I must also say that this is not the first time a debate like this is taking place. In the past, the Bhutanese, when it was practicing investigative journalism, which we still do, initially in the past, there were a lot of people accusing it of being sensational, something not correct. So I think when we have debates in the Bhutanese media or in general, there should be some basis and facts. This is all for today. Thank you very much.